In recent days, during the consistory convened by Pope Leo XIII, a two-page document drafted by Cardinal Arthur Roche, prefect of the Dicastery for Divine Worship, circulated among the cardinals. The text, distributed in Italian and English, had a specific objective: to reiterate the reasons for the restriction of the Mass in the traditional Roman Rite, presenting them as coherent from a linguistic, historical, and theological perspective. It wasn't an anonymous commentator who publicly challenged the document, but Joseph Shaw, president of the Una Voce Association, who published a detailed response in which he explicitly stated that he was merely examining what the document says and how it says it. This is the analysis we're referring to. The first point raised by Shaw does not concern theology, but something more elementary, and precisely for this reason, more embarrassing: translation. According to Shaw, the English version of Cardinal Roche's document is not simply imperfect, but seriously incorrect. An example is cited verbatim. The Italian word sintonia, meaning harmony, is rendered in English as syntony, a rare and inadequate term. Shaw observes, "It is surprising that an English-speaking cardinal did not notice such a gross error, and this suggests that he did not write the text himself." This is not a marginal detail. For Shaw, a faulty translation undermines the overall credibility of a document that claims to provide clarity. Once the linguistic problem is overcome, the analysis gets to the heart of the argument. Shaw summarizes Cardinal Roche's thesis as being based on three pillars. First, the Catholic liturgy has always changed through a process of organic reform. Second, the Second Vatican Council explicitly called for liturgical reform. Third, liturgical unity is necessary to ensure the unity of the Church. In support of this last point, the document cites various pontiffs. It is on this third pillar that Shaw focuses one of his most incisive criticisms. He argues that the call for liturgical unity is historically inconsistent and selective. The Church, he recalls, has coexisted for centuries with a plurality of rites without this affecting ecclesial unity. Shaw lists concrete examples: the Ambrosian Rite, the Carthusian Rite, the Mozarabic Rite, all reformed after the Council. To these, he adds more recent forms, such as the use of the Ordinariate, the Congolese Rite, and even a liturgical use approved in 2024 for an indigenous community in a single diocese of Mexico. If none of these are seen as a threat to unity, Shaw observes, it is never explained why the traditional Mass in the Roman Rite should be. Cardinal Roche's document then recalls the Second Vatican Council as the foundation of the reforms. But according to Shaw, this reference is partial and misleading. The Council, he argues, not only recognized the legitimate diversity of rites, but explicitly encouraged the Eastern churches to recover their own traditions, rejecting the idea of rigid uniformity even in the West. To present the Council as a mandate for liturgical homologation, Shaw argues, is to attribute to it an intention that the texts do not contain. Particularly sensitive is the issue of Paul VI, cited in the Roche document, with the expression "one and the same prayer." Shaw openly disputes this quotation, arguing that it has been incorrectly translated and interpreted. The official Latin version of the cited act speaks of an edemque cunctorum precatio, which is correctly translated as a single prayer. The difference is not insignificant. Paul VI, Shaw explains, was responding to those who believed that Latin was the only guarantee of unity. His point was that, even with different languages, the Mass remained the same Mass, a single prayer that unites the Church in diversity. According to Shaw, therefore, the meaning of the quotation is reversed. Paul VI is made to say the opposite of what he meant. The Roche document then attempts to legitimize the post-conciliar reforms by recalling historical precedents, such as the Franco-German reforms or the Council of Trent. Shaw disagrees here too. He claims that in the history of the liturgy, there has never been a complete rewriting of the texts comparable to that which occurred with the Novus Ordo. In the past, he explains, reforms consisted of giving priority to already existing texts, considered more reliable, over others present in different missals. It wasn't a question of creating an entire liturgical corpus from scratch. A complete rewriting of the liturgical texts, Shaw states, is unprecedented before the contemporary era. The final point raised concerns the Second Vatican Council. Shaw argues that invoking its authority is not enough, because many of the changes introduced subsequently were never requested by the Council Fathers. In some cases, he notes, the Council explicitly warned against unnecessary innovations, including the abandonment of Latin. Attributing to the Council decisions it never made, according to Shaw, means using its name as a cover, not as a real reference. The analysis's conclusion is clear. Shaw states that Cardinal Roche's argument avoids addressing the substantial criticisms leveled at the liturgical reform and the suppression of the traditional Mass. In their place, he argues, a simplified historical narrative is proposed, useful for justifying decisions already made. A strategy that, according to Shaw, relies on the fact that many cardinals, probably the vast majority, lack a thorough knowledge of the history of the liturgy. It is at this point that the issue takes on a broader significance. It is not simply a dispute between experts, but a rift in the way the history of the Church is told. On the one hand, those who invoke authority; on the other, those who demand coherence between texts, facts, and tradition. And the documents circulated at the consistory, rather than closing the question, ended up reopening it. If this insight has helped you better understand what's happening, you can support the work with a super thank you. It's a simple way to help continue free and informed analysis. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.